So how do you keep track of time? I've always been a wristwatch guy, and right now my wristwatch isn't working properly. I feel lost without it. There's a variety of ways. There's the old analog way. I'm an analog guy. I'll explain that in a minute. In today's world, there is the digital way. I've just never gotten used to this. I convert every possible clock I have to an analog clock. Because you see, when you're looking at digital, I can look at this and it says 7:52 and 53 seconds. It gives me the precise time, the precise moment, but it doesn't give me scope. It doesn't give me a sense of the second hand sweeping by. It doesn't give me when I look at analog time, I'm very mindful that here we are, just about 5 minutes to 8, and I know that I've got something facing me in 30 minutes. I'm mindful of what is ahead of me. I'm also mindful of what is past. Analog gives me a better sense of scope and of history and of what lies ahead. Call me old-fashioned, but that's just there. And then, of course, one way to tell time is through an hourglass. It was 5 months ago that I took out a calendar with you and I talked about the hourglass briefly. But you flip this over, that measures 1 hour. This gives you a true sense of time that is flying by from that end. Speaking of calendars, this is one way we track time. It was back then that 5 months ago I focused specifically on this box we're living in, under the thought, under the truth that this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And then, of course, another way of keeping track of time by marbles. No, not am I losing my marbles. That may be. In here are 132 marbles. If I live to the age of 80, which doesn't seem that far away, I could take out one marble each month, and that's how many months I have left between now and when I'm 80 years old. It gives you a sense of perspective. God's word to us speaks a lot about time. I spoke about that this past weekend in a sermon entitled Come Before Winter. The psalmist says, teach us to number our days. I think all of these are ways that we number our days. But Paul, in his letter to the Ephesians, says this from Ephesians 5, verse 16, make the most of your time, because the days are evil. In the Greek word there is kairos, make the most of the window of time, the window of opportunity. In that sermon, Come Before Winter, Paul is writing to his young friend Timothy. Paul senses that his end is nearing, and he says to Timothy, bring my cloak with you, bring my writing utensils, bring the books and the parchment with you, and come before winter. Paul had a sense that there was an urgency, that if Timothy delayed, it would be too late. Come before winter. Martin Luther King, in his great I Have a Dream speech, referred to that moment as the urgency of now. And that's what I would hold before you. How do you keep track of time? We can use clocks, digital or analog. We can use an hourglass and marbles and whatever. But sometimes we need to keep track of time by the kairos moment, a moment that could be lost if we don't take advantage of it right now. Where is God calling you to do something, to see someone? Where is God calling you to take responsibility for something in your life that if you don't deal with it now, you may lose that window of opportunity? How do you keep track of time? We have the baptismal font here. You ever notice that a baptismal font, a traditional baptismal font, has How many sides? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ever wonder why? Martin Luther would look at a font like this and refer to that eighth side as the eighth day. That when we are baptized into the eighth day. The eighth day being eternity, when time is no more. When we don't have to keep track of time because we are eternally in the presence of God. And that when we are baptized, we are already ushered into that eighth day. Yes, we're constricted by time here and now, but yet we also know that when death comes, be it 132 marbles from now, whenever it would come, that we will simply continue on in that eighth day that is ours through baptism. For now, I just leave you with this. Where is it that God is asking you to keep track of time, not so much by all this, but rather by those moments where he is calling to you to come before winter, come before it's too late. And maybe for some of us that begins between you and him, that you come to him as he is calling and beckoning you, as he stands at the door and knocks, looking indeed to rekindle the relationship the two of you once had. May God bless you and those you love.